So, I want to start with a weirdly specific memory.
Yep.
Do you remember those old spy movie? I'm talking like Connery or Moore era James Bond.
Oh, yeah. Q's lab.
Exactly. There was always that scene where Q would hand Bond a fountain pen that was secretly a grenade or a watch that could cut through steel.
Right?
And as a kid, you think, that's so cool. But as an adult, I look at that and think, okay, but practically speaking, carrying a live grenade in my shirt pocket feels like an HR violation just waiting to happen.
It creates a fair amount of liability, yes.
Yeah.
But, the appeal is so obvious.
What's that?
It's the idea of having a secret advantage, a hidden layer of protection that nobody else knows is there.
Right. But usually those gadgets are for stealing secrets or, blowing up some villain's lair.
Sure.
Today I want to talk about that same hidden gadget idea, but applied to something much, much more real. Survival. We're looking at a device that isn't from a movie set, and it didn't come out of some billion-dollar military contract. It came from a 16-year-old high school student in Limpopo, South Africa.
Which is just an incredible origin story in itself.
Oh,
We're talking about Bilal Mfale.
yes.
And this device she invented, the alerting earpiece, is fascinating because it bridges that gap between, low-tech jewelry and high-tech surveillance.
Exactly. And you're right to pivot away from the cool factor of spy movies because the context here is not entertainment at all.
No, it's the epidemic of gender-based violence and human trafficking.
And that's really where we have to start. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of how you fit a camera into an earring, we have to look at the why.
The motivation.
Because looking at the timeline, Bilal started working on this in 2020. I remember 2020 so vividly. I was mostly trying to keep a sourdough starter alive and figure out how to mute myself on Zoom.
I think we all were.
I wasn't exactly solving global crises,
I think most of us were in a very domestic, inward-facing survival mode. But for Bilal, who was attending S.J. Vandermeer Technical High School, survival mode was external.
What do you mean?
Well, South Africa has some really stark statistics when it comes to safety for women and children. Kidnapping, assault, these aren't abstract concepts. They're operational realities for something as simple as a commute.
So here's my first question then. We all have smartphones. I have one in my pocket right now that can track my location, call the police, record video.
Right.
Why do we need a separate device? Why does a teenager need to invent an earring when she probably has an iPhone?
That is the central design problem she identified.
Okay.
Think about the mechanics of an assault or an abduction. It's chaotic, it's fast,
Yeah.
and it relies on coercion.
Right.
If you reach for your pocket or your bag to grab your phone, that is a very visible, very escalating action.
An attacker sees that. They see the phone.
And they take it away. Or worse, they react violently to stop you from using it. The phone is a tether to the outside world, sure, but it's also a liability because it's just so obvious.
So the phone is too slow and too loud.
Exactly. She needed something that leveraged the element of surprise, something, hidden in plain sight.
Hence the earring.
Hence the earring.
Okay, let's dig into the device itself. She calls it the alerting earpiece. Conceptually, I get it. It's a panic button. But physically, I'm skeptical. You're telling me this thing has a camera, a GPS tracker, and a way to call the police, all hanging off an earlobe.
I know.
I've seen smart rings that look like lug nuts. How is she defying physics here?
Yeah.
Batteries are heavy. Cameras have lenses. How does this not rip your ear off?
That is the million-dollar engineering question. It's all about miniaturization and power density.
Right.
In the world of wearables, and we see this in studies from Nordic Semiconductor and other component makers, the biggest bottleneck is always the battery. If you want a device to stream video and track GPS constantly, you need a battery the size of a matchbox, which obviously doesn't work for an earring.
No. You look like you're wearing a Bluetooth headset from 2005. Not exactly discreet.
Not at all. So the way Bilal and other engineers in this safety wearable space get around this is by using what we call deep sleep protocols.
Okay, what does that mean?
It's not like an Apple Watch that is constantly measuring your heart rate or checking for texts. The circuit is effectively dead. It's dormant until it's triggered.
So it's a sleeper agent?
Precisely. Because it's not running a screen and it's not constantly pinging a cell tower, the power consumption is practically zero. It just uses a tiny coin cell battery or a small lithium polymer unit.
And the heavy lifting only happens when you press the button?
Exactly.
Okay, walk me through that sequence. I'm walking down the street, I feel threatened, I press the button on the earring. Then what happens?
The moment that circuit closes, the device wakes up. It executes 3 functions almost simultaneously. First, the camera module snaps a photo. And since it's on your ear, it's facing forward or to the side, theoretically capturing the face of someone who's too close.
Right. And then?
Second, the GPS module wakes up, locks onto satellites, and gets your coordinates. And third, the cellular transmitter fires off a little packet of data, the photo and the location, to a preset list of contacts in the police.
And this all happens silently.
Completely silent. No beeps, no lights. The attacker has no idea they've been tagged.
That's why she won medals at the ESCOM Expo for young scientists.
It is. It's not just that she had a good idea. She built a prototype that actually balanced all of these constraints.
But there's a catch, and this is something I found really interesting in our sources. It's manual.
Yes.
You have to physically reach up and press a button. I mean, in an era where my lights turn on automatically when I walk into a room, isn't a manual button a bit analog? What if you can't reach your ear?
You're hitting on the classic automation versus control debate in safety tech.
Okay.
And yes, a manual button has limitations. If you're restrained, you can't press it. But Belisle had a very specific and frankly quite funny reason for keeping it manual.
Which was?
She called it the false positive dilemma.
Oh, the Aunt Sheila scenario.
Yes. Imagine if the device relied on, say, an elevated heart rate or a sudden movement.
Right.
You see your aunt, you run over,
Yeah.
you give her a massive bear hug, your heart rate spikes, your accelerometer goes crazy, and suddenly the police are swarming your family reunion because your jewelry thought you were being strangled.
Which would be a great story for Thanksgiving, but a terrible use of police resources.
Exactly. False positives destroy trust in a security system. If the police show up for false alarms 3 times, they might not hurry the 4th time.
So the manual button is a trade-off. It guarantees that if the signal goes out, it's real.
It's real. But you are right to be skeptical about the what if I can't reach it scenario. And this is where the broader research comes in. The field is trying to move toward automation, but it requires much more sophisticated tech than what fits in an earring today.
So what does that look like? If we want to get rid of the button, how does a computer know the difference between a hug and an assault?
This gets us into what they call WEE-safe networks and advanced computer vision. There's a fascinating review in the PMC, it's a big biomedical archive, that looked at using AI to analyze movement patterns.
Okay.
They found that wearables, when paired with the right AI, can currently detect assault with about 89% precision.
89%. That's a B+. In school, that's great. In a life or death situation, that means 11 times out of 100 it gets it wrong.
It's high.
That feels high.
It is high. And that's why we aren't seeing these fully automated systems on the market yet. But the tech is getting wild. There's a company, Abto Software, working on computer vision, basically teaching a camera to understand what it's seeing.
Right.
They claim they can detect violence with 95% accuracy by analyzing the velocity of limbs and the pose estimation of the bodies.
Pose estimation.
Yeah, it's like mapping a digital stick figure over a video feed. If the stick figure raises an arm rapidly and brings it down in a striking motion, the AI flags that as violence.
Wow.
But if the stick figures are, arms open and moving slowly, it flags that as a greeting.
That is incredible, but it implies there's a camera watching you. And that brings me back to the earring. The earring's camera is only on when you press the button.
Right.
If we want fully automated safety, are we talking about wearing a body cam that's recording 24/7? Because that sounds like a privacy nightmare.
It absolutely is.
Oh.
And that's why there's another branch of research that I think is even more sci-fi.
More than AI stick figures.
Oh, yeah. It's discussed in IA and MDPI papers. They're looking at using Wi-Fi and 5G signals themselves as sensors.
Wait, you mean the Wi-Fi router in my house?
Yes. Think about it like a bat using echolocation.
Okay.
Wi-Fi signals are just radio waves filling a room. When you move through them, you disturb those waves. You create ripples. They call it channel state information, or CSI. And it turns out that this specific ripple caused by someone walking is mathematically different from the ripple caused by someone falling down or someone throwing a punch.
So the router doesn't see you with a camera, but it feels the disturbance in the air.
That's a perfect analogy. The research suggests we could program our environment, our homes, our offices, to detect the specific signal patterns of a struggle.
And if it detects that?
The house itself calls the police. No buttons, no cameras, no wearables.
That is mind-blowing. It's also a little creepy, but we can put a pin in the creepy factor for a second.
We can.
I want to go back to the practical side. Whether it's Bully's earring or a magic Wi-Fi router, does this stuff actually help? I can imagine a scenario where the police get the alert, but they still show up 20 minutes late.
That is the crucial variable, response time. Technology can't teleport the police, but it can cut out the friction of the call.
Friction.
The IE published research indicating that wearable emergency devices can reduce response times by up to 50%.
50%. That's massive. That's cutting a 10-minute wait down to 5.
And the RAND Corporation adds another layer to this. It's not just about speed. It's about situational awareness.
Okay.
Think about a traditional 911 call. You're panicked. You might be crying. You might not know your exact address. The dispatcher has to calm you down and extract all that information.
Yeah. What is your emergency? Where are you? All that back and forth.
Exactly. That takes time.
Mm-hmm.
With Bilala's device, the police dispatch receives a data packet. They have a GPS pin exact coordinates. They have a photo of the scene. They know exactly what they're walking into.
And that data transfer is instant.
It's instant. NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, backs this up. Reducing that information gap saves lives.
Okay, so the concept is solid. The tech works in a prototype. The need is obviously there. So why can't I buy one?
That's the question.
If I go to Amazon right now and search alerting earpiece, nothing comes up. Why is this still a science fair project and not a product on the shelf?
This is where we leave the lab and enter the valley of death.
The valley of death.
It's what venture capitalists call the gap between a working prototype and mass production. Bollale faces some massive hurdles here. The first, inevitably, is funding.
It's always money.
It is. She's a young woman in Limpopo. The systemic barriers to accessing high-level venture capital they're significantly higher than for a kid in a garage in Palo Alto.
Right.
It's been years since our initial prototype, and scaling hardware is incredibly expensive. You need molds, supply chains, regulatory approval.
And I imagine the design itself is a hurdle. I mean, look at me. I don't have my ears pierced.
Right.
If this tech is only available as an earring, I'm out of luck.
That's a huge design constraint. For this to be a universal solution, it needs to be form agnostic.
Form agnostic.
The technology, the little circuit board, the battery, the camera, it needs to be modular. You should be able to pop it into a pendant or clip it onto a belt or wear it as a brooch. It needs to fit the cultural and gender norms of how different people dress.
There's also a darker side to this that I want to bring up. We talked about how this device sends your location to family and the police.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds great if you're safe. But what if you're in a domestic violence situation? Could an abusive partner use the same device to track you?
That is the Trojan horse risk of all these IoT safety devices. Research from the PMC highlights this vulnerability explicitly.
It's a known problem.
It is. If the data transmission isn't encrypted with military-grade security, these devices can be hacked. Or, even simpler, if the abuser has access to the family contact list, they can see exactly where the victim is at all times.
So the tool meant to save you becomes the tool that stalks you.
It's a terrifying paradox. If you build a device that broadcasts location, you are building a tracking device. And ensuring that only the good guys get the data and the bad guys don't is a massive cybersecurity challenge.
A challenge that requires more money and resources.
Right. It requires encryption standards that are often too expensive or complex for cheap consumer gadgets.
It really complicates the hero narrative of the technology, doesn't it? It's not just about building the gadget, it's about building the safety net around the gadget.
Correct. And that is why Bollale's work is so impressive, but also just the first step.
Right.
She has proven that citizen science can address these gaps.
Right.
She didn't wait for a tech giant to come and save her community. She saw a problem, gender-based violence, and used the tools available to her to engineer a solution.
That's the part I love. It's the agency of it. She didn't just petition for better laws. She soldered a circuit board. It's a very proactive way of dealing with fear.
It is. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought on that proactive nature. We talked about the future, the Wi-Fi sensing, the AI cameras, the automation.
The house that watches you.
Right. We're cheering for Bollale's device because it puts control in the hands of the victim. You push the button.
You're in charge.
But as the tech gets better, as we move toward that 95% accuracy in automated detection, we are effectively building a surveillance state in the name of safety.
We're inviting the watcher in because we're scared of the attacker.
Exactly. If we want a world where an AI stops a crime before it happens, we have to accept a world where the AI sees everything we do. Where do we draw that line? Is privacy the price of safety?
That is a heavy question. It's the ultimate trade-off. I suppose I'd rather be watched than attacked, but I would much rather be neither.
And that is the balance that the next generation of engineers, the next Bollales, will have to figure out.
Well, on that slightly dystopian but incredibly important note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Huge respect to Bilal of Infaleo for pushing the boundaries and forcing us to ask these questions.
Absolutely.
And to our listeners, next time you see a cool gadget, ask yourself, what problem is it actually solving and who is watching?
Keep questioning the tech.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one.